In this tutorial series, we'll be making these renders that you see here. We will go through a full modeling, texturing, and rendering workflow. This is the type of skill I use all the time for product visualization clients. This video is going to cover part 1, which is the modeling of this design, and then the next 2 parts we will do the texturing and shading, and then the rendering and the animation or the stills. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, let's get started with the modeling of this lamp. The first thing I'm going to do is hit A and then X to delete everything, and then we're going to be using reference images to do most of this modeling. So I'm going to go into the top hand view and then Shift A, image, reference, and I've already downloaded a picture from my phone of the top view. So from the thumbnail you saw, we're going to be using the lamp head first. This is a Steelcase task lamp that I actually have on my desk. I may put a picture of it on the screen here. So what we're going to do is we're going to model this lamp, and the majority of our renders are going to be looking at this top where the light is. So this is where we want to focus kind of our attention. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A, add in a mesh cylinder. And then I want it to have more vertices, and I also want it to have a flat face facing this right hand side because we're basically going to extrude out the stem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the right hand view, and as long as you don't click anything, you can click this add cylinder, and I'm going to change this to 42. And what that's going to do is you can see that there's a perfectly flat plane right here, and you can see like your vertical axis. So there's a perfectly flat plane right here coming this way. So that's what we're going to use to extrude that stem out. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go Alt Z, and then I'm going to just bring this reference image over till it kind of looks like it's in the middle. And then I'm going to click the cylinder, tab into edit mode. I'm going to scale everything down to where it kind of fits. And then I'm going to click the image again. We'll just rename this to the top view. And then I'm going to try to center that image in the circle, center that circle on that lamp head. So then now we have that there. I'm going to go to the left hand view, just select this, tab A, scale on the Z. We're just going to do this kind of rough for now. This looks like it's about like it is from the picture of the reference. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to make this circle or this oval inset button. That's actually the power on and off switch. So I'm going to go out of X-ray mode, tab into this. I'm going to select 3 in the top face, I to inset, and then we're going to bring it down to something like this. And then I'm going to click 1 and select these vertices, the right hand side, and GX, and we're just going to bring it out to something like that. And then I'm going to click 3, hit this face, I'm going to scale it down. And then I'm just going to move it over like this. And then I'm going to go back into X-ray mode and just kind of line this up. If you want to rotate this image, you can, but I'm not going to mess with it. I'm basically just going to kind of eyeball it. We know that this is perfectly in line with this horizontal axis. So I'm basically just going to match the shape and the size. So make sure you only move this, this insetted face along the X-axis so we know that it's perfectly not crooked or been angled. So what we're going to do is I'm basically just going to seed the outer edge of this here and this here, scale it up a little bit to where it looks kind of right. Again, this is just to a reference, but it's not going to be noticeable. Okay, so if we look at this, what we basically have is we have an insert cutout, and then we have a tiny gap, and there's this translucent material that's lights up that when you click the button, it shows you if it's on and off. So I'm going to go out of X-ray mode, and then I'm just going to inset this face a little bit. That's going to be just a tiny gap between the hole and the translucent. And then we're going to inset again, and that's going to be our translucent material right there. We're going to inset one more time, a small gap between that and the button, kind of make them equal size, and that's what we need. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 3 and hit Alt, hold Alt, and select this loop, and then hold Shift and select this loop. And then what I'm going to just do is I'm going to make sure I'm in 3 for face, right click, extrude faces along normals. I'm just going to drop those down to something like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold 2 and I'm going to select Alt, or I'm holding Alt. I'm going to select this loop and then hold Shift and select this loop, and this loop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control B to bevel and then just give them a nice bevel, something like this. And so now you can see we got the beautiful little inset here. This would be the button that you would click, and then you've got these pieces here. If you don't like your gap sizes, you can go through, and what I would probably do is just click on this, select this middle face, and then hold Alt, make sure you click that loop, and then Control plus to just grab these faces. And then as long as you click on the medium point as your scale, you could click scale and then Shift Z, and that's going to basically, well, that didn't work. So And now that we got that button modeled, the next thing we're going to do is going to add bevel to this outside edge. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, click 2, hold Alt. We're just going to give this a nice bevel here like this. I know that our geometry is skewed over, but you're really not going to see it when you add the subdivision surface. So I'm just going to add a nice bevel like that. And then cool. So the next thing I'm going to do is there's basically a little cut-in notch here on the side. So I'm going to just add in that reference image so I can show you what we're talking about. So image, reference. Okay, I'm going to bring that up. This is my desk mat. So it's sitting here. You can see that there's this inset cut, and there's actually these like fin details that we'll go back in and add. And then also it looks like our thing is a little bit thicker than we have it here. So I'm going to click this, grab this bottom face, and I'm just going to GZ, bring it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to hide this for now. And I'm going to click on this, tab in edit mode, control R. I'm just click somewhere here and click escape. Then I'm going to move it up with GZ and then control B to bevel it. And then I'm going to scroll down until I get 2 segments. And so I'm just kind of line this up, something like that. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to click 3 to make sure I'm in face select, right click, extrude faces along normals, and you can just bring that way in, something like that. And then one thing that you can do is if you don't like the way that that's scaled, you can do Alt S, and then you can still, push and extrude. It says extrude region, shrink, flatten. So that's something you can do to move them along the normals, but I like where it's at right now. So now we need to add some more bevels so we can add a subdivision surface modifier. So I'm going to tab, hold 2 or click 2, Alt, select this loop, this loop, this loop, and this loop. These are not going to be as thick of a bevel here. So we're just going to do control B and bring them down to something like that. Just give them enough segments to where it'll be smooth. That looks good. And then we're going to also give this bottom face a bevel similar to the top one. So we're going to do control B, similar size. I know you could use a bevel modifier for this, but for me, at least in this workflow, it's easier for me to just add the bevels that I want to the right sizes because they're different radiuses. So I'm going to go into front. Now we're just going to hide this for now. We don't need it. And that's the majority of the headpiece done. If you hold this and do control 2, you can see that you get a really nice clean subdivided mesh. You can right click and shade auto smooth, and that's going to be ready for some materials later on. I also think this gap is a little bit too big, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into front view, Alt Z, 1. We're going to grab all these bottom faces and just bring them up a little bit. And I'm going to go out and check how it looks. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to add a little stem piece coming out here that'll connect to the rest of the lamp. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the right-hand view, and then basically what I want to do is tab into edit mode, and I'm also going to turn off in the modifiers tab, I'm going to turn off the subdivision from the viewport. Basically what I want is I want to have a square on this square that we can use to create this stem. So I'm going to click Alt-A to deselect, Control R, I'm going to put a loop cut here, and then Control R, another loop cut right here. Basically, we just want to have a square. So I'm going to grab this, right click, extrude along the normals, move my mouse upward like that. And then if we turn on our subdivision surface modder again, we can see that it's all, been out of shape. So we're going to tab into edit mode. We're going to use some support loops, Control R. I'm just going to bring this down. You can kind of see you get shading errors or different views depending on where it's at. We'll actually add one more level in a second. So I'm going to go Control R, add another one here. And I'm going to Control R again, add one more right here. And then if you see we still have some shading errors right here, if you add one more level, most of those will go away. So now we've got a nice little stem coming out. You see you don't really have any pinching or bad normals right here. It actually looks pretty good. I might just bump this down to 2 while we're working just so we don't have a bunch of lag on our PC. But this is basically the mesh. The last thing that we need to do, or the couple pieces that we need to do, is add the rib pieces in here, and then we'll work on the bottom. So we're going to add this rib detail. I'm going to go Shift A, Mesh Cube. I'm going to tab in edit mode, scale it down. And then what I'm just going to do is tab back out, and then in edit mode, I'm going to go into X-ray so you can see. I want to grab all these vertices and move them in the Y. And that's important because that means our origin is still at the middle. So now I'm going to tab into edit mode, just scale this along the X. I'm going to go in the right hand view. I'm going to grab these vertices, and I'm just going to bring them up until they're right above this kind of floor or the inset cutout that we have. So I'm going to GZ, bring those down. I may bring these two forward with GY. and then bring these down with GZ. And then I'm going to grab this guy and go GY, and I'm going to bring this back. And so now what we've got is kind of this like angled inset piece. It's kind of thick, so I'm going to tab ASX, scale it down this way. And then I'm also going to go into the right-hand view. I'm going to bring these back with GY and bring this back with GY. And I might also just bring these down a little bit, something like that. Okay, I'm going to go Alt-Z to get out of X-ray mode, and then I'm going to add a bevel modifier to this. So click Add Modifier, and then B, and bevel will be the first one that pops up, so it's super quick to get to. Bevel's too strong, so I'm going to bring the bevel way down until something like that. It's 0.004 for me. I'm going to give it 3 segments, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tab into edit mode, and one thing I want to change is I'm going to go back to right-hand view. I want to grab these vertices and bring them back a little bit. You're not ever going to really see this in the renders we're going to make, but I did like the detail from the actual mesh. So now we've got these selected. I'm going to set the origin, the place that we're moving around, to the 3D cursor, but it would have worked anyway because it was already on the origin point was at the 3D cursor. And then I'm going to Shift D and then R, and then I'm going to rotate it just till it gets outside of this mesh or so. So I'm going to say, let's just do 6 degrees. And then if I hold Shift R, that's just going to go all the way around and come back to right there. Now if I tab out of edit mode, you can see we have these nice little mesh rib things. And I actually do want them to go all the way to the top. So I'm just going to click this, tab into edit mode, Alt-Z. I'm just going to box select the top ones here. And then I'm just going to go to the front view and just GZ, bring them up to something like that. Alt-Z. Nice. So that's kind of the rib mesh detail there. Now the thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in the bottom pieces. I'm going to turn off the subdivision surface modifier for this. So now we're going to go, I'm going to add Shift A, image, reference, and then for my downloads, I have a bottom view. So this is what the lamp looks like. It's got a solid ring and then basically like an inset for these black ribs and then another solid ring. It's connected right here in the actual lamp, but we're not going to do that just because it's going to take longer. So what we're going to do is kind of make these details. We're just going to hold it here and just kind of do it manually ourselves. So coming off of this, you can see that it's got a little lip here. So I'm going to tab in edit mode, select this bottom face, and then I to inset it a little bit. So basically that's going to be this ring up to here. I'm going to scale it down a little bit more. And then what we need is we need a ring to go to here. So we're going to inset again. We're going to come down till it looks like it's about that size of those rings, and then inset again for that blue ring. Something like that. And that's pretty much it. Okay, now that we have these rings set up, I'm going to make this black rib detail. So I'm going to hit 3, hold Alt, and then click this line here. That's going to select this loop. And then I'm going to hit F3 and check your deselect. That's going to select basically every other one. And then I'm going to hit period on my numpad key to kind of center on these and then rotate. And then I'm going to right click. And also before we do this, I'm going to turn the subdivision surface modifier off by getting rid of these. And then what I'm going to do is right click, extrude face along normals. I'm just going to bring them up. If you bring them up far enough, it'll cut through and you can see the outside. So I'm just going to bring them down a little bit from that. And then what we're going to need to do is add some bevel so the subdivision surface doesn't make these not square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to bottom and I'm going to do Control plus plus, and that's going to select all these. Then I'm going to do Control minus to get back to this loop, edge loop. And then I'm going to do Control B, and then I'm just going to bring this out to something kind of like this, not too much here. And then I'm going to give it at least 3, but I'm probably going to give it 4 or 5 segments here just to help keep the definition going. So I'm going to give it a bevel something like this. Let's just do 4. See how that looks. And then now I can turn our subdivision surface back on. You can see we still get good topology there. And then I'm going to get rid of this for now. Actually, let me just think. Do we need anything else? We need this bottom ring. So I'm going to tab. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab this and then I'm going to inset it slightly. And then inset slightly again. And then I'm going to right click, extrude face along normal. And I'm just going to bring this up. I'm going to go into the front view, Alt-Z. As long as I'm not poking out here, that should be good. GZ, let's bring it all the way kind of up to that bottom face. And then I'm just gonna I to inset that, I to inset, and then one more time just for good measure. Just gonna do that. Alt-Z to get out of that. We can now hide this bottom face. We'll come back and add this later. Okay, that's going to be the vast majority of what's going to make this render stand out. So the other thing that we want to do is kind of make the frame and the base. So I'm just going to add in Shift A image reference. In my downloads, I have this whole top view of the lamp. So we've got this piece modeled. Now we're just going to kind of model these. So I'm going to make this piece first. Actually, let's make the base first. So we're just going to rename this to the lamp head. And then I'm going to move all of these into actually I'm just going to grab all of these and then go M to move to a new collection and call these the reference images. And that just helps me stay organized. So now I have this cube. We're going to make this, let's just leave it here for now. We're just going to all these rib details. Okay. So I'm just going to hide both of these for now. And in this collection, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to try to center this cube here, or center this picture. And then I'm going to go Shift A, Mesh Cylinder, tab into edit mode, Alt Z to scale, just bring it down to something that's close. And then I'm going to move this in the center basically. Click that cylinder, tab, scale it down. This is just going to be close. Go to the front view, tab, scale into Z. It's going to be something like this. And then we're going to grab, out of Alt Z, going to grab these two outer loops. You can just click the face to do that. I'm also going to hide this for a second. And I want to make sure we name this to be whole top view so I can find it. We're going to hide it, tab, and edit mode on this, Control B. I'm going to give this a nice bevel with 5 segments or so. And then we're going to tab into edit mode, grab this top face here, and then I to inset. And then we're basically do the same thing where we GX and move it over. I'm going to bring back my top view, go into Alt Z into the edit mode, and then I'm going to rotate this around the 3D cursor so that it basically stays perfectly in line because we've centered it up here. I'm going to rotate this so it's kind of horizontal. I'm going to click the cylinder. We're just going to go ahead and name this to base. We're going to click the base, tab into edit mode, GX, scale this down. Oh, now I want to change this to the individual origin. So I'm going to scale this down, GX, scale. Going to out of X-ray mode. I'm going to hide this again. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this downwards, just deep enough for something to sit in. And then we're just going to go ahead and add a manual bevel. So we're just going to bevel this edge to something that looks good like that. And then we're also going to tab and bevel this edge just for fun. And now we could add a Control 2 subdivision surface and then right click Shade Auto Smooth. And now you have a beautiful base mesh. So now we've got the base, we've got the lamp head too. We'll go back and fix that later. And then also it's going to be important to keep this to scale. So what I would probably do is put back our whole top view. And then we're going to grab our lamp head and ribs and move them over. Grab them, make sure they're view. Click that and that, G. And then I'm going to go Alt Z and then we're going to go to this scale now. So I'm just grab both of these and scale down just until we make this size pretty close. It doesn't have to be super accurate. If you wanted to, you could have modeled this all out to scale. Derek Elliott is really good at taking dimensions and making sure everything's to scale, but I'm just going to do it this way for now because it's a little bit easier. So now this is in the correct proportion, and then I can just grab these and Alt G and just put them back for now. Okay, so I'm going to hide both of those out of Alt Z. I'm also going to hide this base, and then I'm going to go into the top view again. Let's show our whole top view. So now what we're basically going to do, we're going to model this little piece that fits in here. And then the way I'm going to do that is just to make sure I don't get something messed up is I'm just going to go to the base, turn that on. I'm going to tab in edit mode. I'm going to grab this bottom face, Shift D. That's going to duplicate it, and then P, and then separate it by the selection. So now this bottom face here is going to be its own thing. I'm going to right click, set the origin to the geometry, and I'm going to get rid of the subdivision surface for now. So now what I can do is I can tab into edit mode. I can grab this. I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, not in edit mode. Tab 1. I'm going to just grab this face here. Tab A, E. What's going on here? There we go. I'm going to grab this, just extrude that face along the normal, make something kind of like this, and then let's just Alt G to bring it back to, oh, it's going to bring it here, Control Z, and then GZ, bring it back down to something that sits in here. We're going to the front view. This will never matter, but I'm just going to make sure it's not intersecting. Just going to bring it down. And then I'm going to hide this for a second. Alt Z, tab in edit mode, grab both of these planes, Control B. Actually, let's do that. Well, no, we can do it now. Control B there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tab into edit mode, click this face, insert it like this. I'm going to right click loop tools and basically make a so I'm going to right click this, or I'm going to click this. I'm going to take this face and inset it. And then what I'm going to do is kind of a backwards way to do this, but I'm just going to grab these from here to here. I'm going to leave 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So I'm going to click this here and then right click the one that's opposite. And I'm going to do SY0. And I'm going to bring this back down to something like this. And then I'm going to leave 1, 2, 3, 4, or leave 3 blank, 1, 2, 3 blank. Click from here to here. I'm going to also scale this in the Y by 0, and then Y, something like that. And then I can click these two, or actually let's just grab both of these by using Shift and Control SX0. And then that's kind of a way to get back to a rectangle, because we're going to model that straight up. So I'm going to click 2 and select this loop now. And then I'm just going to try to center it in this origin like this. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to scale this in the X and then scale it in the Y a little bit. And we're going to extrude that upward. So extrude, or click 3, extrude face along the normal. And then now what I should be able to do is if I click 2 and then Alt and grab this loop, I can still bevel this. It's a little bit janky, but I should be able to Control 2 and keep that nice geometry at the bottom. We'll fix this up here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a new reference image. I'm going to Shift A and just put in that front view image. So image, reference, and then in the downloads, the whole top view. And then I'm just going to bring this up to here and rotate it. We're basically trying to match this piece right here. So we're going to put it something like that. I'm going to click this, tab into edit mode, 1, Alt Z, bring those up. And then I'm going to rotate them, something like this. And then leave those here. I'm going to Control R, add a loop cut and bring it to here. And then I'm going to grab this face. I'm going to go out of Alt Z. I'm going to hide this for a second, grab this. I'm going to grab this face, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these vertices from here to here, and then I'm going to do GG to move them along their axis. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's just come into front view, put back that reference view here, wherever it went. And then I'm just going to move these out to something like this and bring those here. And then what I'm going to do is, just to make this a little better, I'm going to GG and just kind of bring some of these out. GG is the shortcut to kind of move your vertices along a line. So I'm just going to help our topology out a little bit. Now I'm going to add some control loops. Control R. I'm going to bring this down to something like this. Control R. Bring this up here like that. And then we're going to go out. I'm going to hide this again. I'm going to grab this top face and just inset it. And that's going to help get rid of that shading error. And then that's going to be our base piece for now. So I'm going to go Alt H, unhide everything. We've got that piece here. And actually what I might do is, it's going to be fine. This is going to be less visible. This is just going to be so we can actually have something there. So I'm going to hide both of these. And then we're going to make this kind of vertical piece. The way I did that was I just Shift A, mesh cube. I went to the top view. And then I got rid of all of these pieces from this angle. So this one, and this one. And then I delete those faces. And then I'm going to add a modifier to it, a solidify modifier. And then bring that up. And then I'm also going to just take both of these two edges, Control B, bevel those till we get this shape. And then tab A, select everything, scale it down. And then we're going to have to bring this thickness way down. Scale it down even more. And then I'm going to unhide. I'm going to get rid of this here. I'm just going to bring this over. I'm going to set the origin to the geometry. And I'm going to put back this last cube that we had here. Basically, I want this to go around it. So I'm just going to go GX, bring it over. Bring the thickness way down. Something like that. scale it down even more. So now I got this kind of piece here. I'm tabbing edit mode, 1, Alt Z, grab both of those, and X. Now I can just grab this in the front, GZ, bring it up. I can unhide this here. I'm gonna go out of Alt Z for a second, grab this, GZ, and bring it up. Alt Z, grab both of these and bring it to this outside edge, GX. You can kind of see this falling here. Then I'm gonna move these up till it hits this bottom curve piece. Now I'm gonna do is Control R. I'm gonna add in a vertical loop cut right here, and then I'm gonna grab all these vertices right here and then extrude them in the Z. Just bring this down. And then I'm gonna also go ahead and go Control B, V, and just gonna add a bevel to this. So now if I go out of X-ray mode, you can see we have this tab. Do the same thing up here, tab in edit mode. It's not gonna line up perfectly for what we're doing, but Alt Z, grab these two, extrude in Z, bring it up, Control B, V to go into vertex, round those there. And now we've got this piece on both sides. I also added this little cylinder piece here. So what I just did was went into Shift A, mesh, cylinder, scaled it way down like this. I'm gonna just bring it over, GZ. Just kind of lined it up with that right there, and then tabbed in edit mode, scaled down till it fit in that. And then what I did is I just brought it out here, I think like this, tabbed in edit mode, grabbed these right hand vertices, just brought them back just to give it something to hold to. Oop, make sure I'm in. See how I only grab the top ones? I'm gonna go back, go to top view, Alt Z, grab these, GX, just bring it over till it's inside of that loop. And then Alt Z, we're gonna give it a little bit of detail here, just Control R, Control B to bring out a little thing. Grab those faces with 3, extrude faces along normals, just bring those in just for fun. You can see there's a little detail there, so GZ, just put that here. Back into edit mode, I'm just gonna grab these bottom vertices, bring it down, and then Alt Z, tab into edit mode, Alt Z to make sure we have them all. GZ, bring that up. Okay, so now we've got kind of the base pole of the mesh, and then we're just gonna make this easier on ourselves. Let's go ahead and make this cube. So Shift A, mesh cube. Just gonna bring it up to this point, tab in edit mode, scale it down. I'm gonna do Alt Z. I'm also gonna rotate this. Well, actually it's fine. I'm just gonna grab this cube, put it here, tab in edit mode, scale in X. We're basically just gonna kind of make this shape. Like I said, these won't be in the real renders that we're gonna do, but it is nice to have something that looks good. So then I'm gonna grab these loops here. Actually, let's go to the top and scale it in the Y for now. Make it a little thinner. That looks good. Out of edit mode for a second, let's just hide this plane. We're gonna add a bevel modifier to this. We're gonna leave a pretty high bevel, just basically you don't want it to intersect. So let's do something like that right there, and then give this 3 segments. And then we could also add a Control 2 subdivision surface, right click, shade auto smooth. That looks pretty good for that. I actually want to bevel these vertices too because it has a more rounded shape. So Control B, bring that down into something like that. Actually, let's do all of those. So I'm going to select that one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Control B, bring that down into something like this. That looks good. We got some pinching, so let's just add a couple. Actually, we're going to do it with another subdivision. So just add one of these. You can see we got pinching here, so let's just grab this face and inset it. Just enough to, actually let's do both so it does the same amount. So click these, inset, bring it to here. That looks pretty good. Actually, let's just tab in edit mode, scale those down even more. Like that. Yep, that works good. I'm going to duplicate both of these, so Shift D and just bring them here and rotate them around their individual. Actually, let's just rotate them around the 3D cursor so that they stay in the same rotation. I'm holding Control to snap them. Now I'm just going to bring it up into this position right here. And then I'm also going to move this and this. This is just me kind of making stuff that looks good now. So I'm going to grab all three of these, bring them out, bring this in. I'm going to scale this piece up a little bit, back to individual origin, scale. Okay, now we're going to do the final kind of assembly on these pieces. I noticed there's a mistake on this piece right here. So I'm going to tab into edit mode and then see what's going on here. I'm going to hit 1. I'm going to delete this vertex here, grab this edge, EZ, and actually want to control R, put that back there. And then I'm going to go into Alt Z, GG to move this here. Hopefully yours didn't do that when we did it, but this is how we'll fix it. All of this is messed up. So we're going to tab, hit 1, delete those vertices there. Then hit 2. We're going to grab these two vertices, EZ, bring it up, and then hit 1. Make sure we got both of those selected. Control BV. Add that shape back. That should fix that problem. And it looks like the same thing happened here. So we're going to tab, hit 1, grab these vertices, delete them, grab this edge, and then let's just go to the front, Alt Z, E, Z, bring it down to there, and then 1, Control B, V. Okay, that should put us back to where these pieces look good. So I'm just going to delete this piece that was messed up. I'm assuming it's the same, and then Shift D, R, rotate it down like this by 90, bring it up like this, and then we're going just to bring it. Let's see what we got here. Front, GX, something like that. Move both of these up there. Okay, now we're going to kind of assemble the rest of the lamp. We're going to kind of leave these as bare minimum because they're not going to be really in the shot, but we're going to move this over, something like this, GZ, bring it up. We've lost the cube pieces, the ribs, so I need to, let's just go ahead and parent that. So I'm going to grab the rib and these, Control P, object, keep transform. So now if I move the outer piece, it moves that. So now we can move it back in the X direction and then move it up in the Z direction like this. Kind of looks like that. And then we're going to go ahead and unhide our base. And yeah, you can see the lamp is looking pretty good. So we have a couple more pieces that we're going to add. We need to add some knob details. These aren't going to be very visible. Also to this, let's go ahead and add a bevel modifier. And basically just going to leave it the way it is because all we want to do is be able to add a control 2. Let's see if that works. That should be fine. Shade auto smooth. That'll just help us get some nicer edges. And then we're going to also add in some knob details. So on the front, we're just going to go, I'm going to just hold shift and right click right here. That's going to press the 3D cursor here. So shift A, mesh cylinder, and then tab, scale it way down. And then I'm going to rotate on the X by 90 degrees. Tab into object mode, move it over. I'm going to go into top view. We're just going to bring it out. We're just going to make a knob for this thing. Tab, scale it in the Y. And then we're going to bevel this face here. So Control B. And then grab in the middle of this, just do Control R and then Control B with 1 just to give it a little segment there. And then we're going to do the same F3, checker deselect. And then we just make sure we hook the faces. So 3, Alt, grab this, F3 here, checker deselect. Then we're going to extrude those faces along the normals like that, and then Control B. Let's just give these rounded so they get a little bit of a highlight there. Now you got like a little knob gripper switch. I'm going to tab A, scale everything down a little bit. It's a little bit large, and then GY, bring it here. Let's add. Let's just do Shift S and move the cursor to right there, and then Shift A, add in another cylinder. Tab, I'm going to scale it way down. Rotate X 90, S and the Y. We're going to make a washer. So SY, like that. And then tab back into object, GY, move it here. Scale everything down in the front view. That looks good. GY. And then we can add another. Let's just go ahead and manually bevel this. So I'm going to grab that face and then Alt Z. That little black dot is the other face. Control B. give that a bevel, something like that, and then Control 2, shade auto smooth. Just gives you a little washer detail, and then I'm just going to copy this, Shift D, Y, and I'm going to scale it up, and then Shift D, Y, just put it here, scale it down, just to have some little pieces in case they are in the view that you actually would see. I'm actually going to bring this out too, so I'm going to Tab, Alt Z. I'm going to bring all these out here just as another piece of this arm. Again, we're not really going to see them, but that'll help there. So then we're going to do this. Let's just bevel this outer one. I'm basically going to bevel the ones I'm going to see, and then grab these two loops here with Alt and Shift select, Control B, give them a little bit of a bevel, and then right click, shade auto smooth. Nice. So you can see we basically have the lamp. I'm going to not really work on a bunch of details like, grip knobs and everything here. They're not really going to be seen. The last thing that we need to do is kind of create this inner piece. So I'm just going to do from the bottom, Shift S, cursor to selected, Shift A, mesh cylinder, Tab, scale it down, just till it's inside that lip there, like that. Front view, what I'm going to do is just take the top face and then inset it just a little bit, and then we're going to go to the front view and then extrude faces along normals. And then I'm just going to bring it down and do Alt Z, Alt Z, and then bring that down to right here. And then I'm going to add a bevel modifier just around those edges. I'm going to go out of Alt Z so we can see what we're doing. Let's give it 3 segments here, and let's bring that bevel up just a little bit. Well, it's already maxed out, so let's just set this to 0.001. Let's actually do 0.004. That was good. Do 3 segments, and then we'll do Control 2 for a subdivision surface modifier. We're going to Tab. Actually, we're just going to bring this up in the Z until it kind of lines up with that lip, and then Tab AS, scale it up just a little bit till it fits. Front, tab into edit mode, 1, Alt Z. Just grab these guys and then bring them down to something like this. We'll just go to here. And then that's going to be the clear plastic piece. I'm going to look at the reference image again. So I'm going to go to the front and then go to my reference images and just turn these on. That's not the one we need. Let's go to the top, bottom. Yeah, so we'll color these 2 pieces differently. And then, yeah, we can also add this little ring detail, this white ring inside. That might look good. So let's turn the reference images off. And then let's just do it by doing Shift A, mesh cylinder. It's already in the middle. Scale it down. I'm just going to center it with the period on my numpad, GZ, bring it up. And I'm going to grab these 2 faces and then inset them, just something like that. And then I'm going to right click and do bridge faces. That's just going to make it a hollow cylinder. Front, actually let's do bottom, GZ. Actually let's do it this way, GZ. We're going to bring it to the front, Alt Z. I'm going to hide this for now. Basically, I just want this to just sit just inside that lip so you can see where this thickness is. I'm going to Tab A, S, and then Shift Z, bring it out. And then we can just bring all these pieces down too, GZ. And then this piece should be taller, so we're going to bring this up. Something like that. Maybe not that much, GZ. Alt H, we're going to hide our references, this whole category here. I don't know where this one's at. We're going to go ahead and delete it. Don't need it anymore. Alt H. It's going to bring everything back. And then this is too tall. Which piece is that? Yep, tab front. And then just grab those, GZ, bring it down. Oh, Alt Z, make sure we grab them all, GZ. We're going to bring it down to something like the middle of that point right there. Alt Z. And that is it. We got the full base mesh done. Just like the other 2 videos, we're going to go through and do the texturing and shading. And then in the last video, we'll do kind of a scene setup and we'll create those renders that you saw at the beginning of the video. So I hope you enjoyed and stick around for part 2.